is Barbara Nissman, and I am speaking to you from my music studio here in Greenbrier County, West Virginia. How I wish I could be talking to you from the stage, but hopefully that will happen soon. We have to be patient. But in the meantime, I thought it would be fun to invite you in my studio and share with you the music of some of my favorite composer friends. And I spent a lot of time in this place and chipping away to get closer to the composer's intentions. And today I thought we should talk about one of the greatest composers who's ever lived, the real master. And I am talking about Johann Sebastian Bach. Unfortunately, he did not know about the piano because it wasn't invented when he lived in the Baroque period. But he did leave a huge legacy for the keyboard. And he wrote for the organ and the harpsichord and the clavichord. And I remember growing up and being overwhelmed by the sounds of the organ as played by Virgil Fox, who gave a very romantic interpretation to Bach. And of course, Wanda Landowska, her harpsichord playing for me was the greatest. And I remember in high school, I learned the Italian Concerto by Bach, which was originally written for a two-manual harpsichord. And it was easily, of course, transcribed to our modern-day piano. And I owe the Italian Concerto quite a bit because this piece won me my scholarship to the University of Michigan. But Bach composed this piece, and I think he was 50 years old at the time. He composed it right before finishing the Goldberg Variations and his second book of the Well-Tempered Clavier, which is really a wonderful teaching tool for all keyboard players. And Bach was inspired by the Italian composers. That's why he called it concerto in the Italian style. Composers such as Vivaldi. Remember, Bach had transcribed a lot of Vivaldi's violin concertos for the harpsichord. And what he was doing was imitating the concerto style, where you oppose the solo with the tutti, the soloist with the orchestra, and they're in opposition. And of course, he could do that very easily on the two-manual harpsichord with the contrasting dynamics, and that's really what he shows. So he's writing this concerto for a solo instrument without the orchestra, but we're imitating the tutti and the solo. And it's a three-movement work, and typical of the Baroque movement. The first movement is fast, alternating with a slow andante, followed by a very fast allegro. And it is written in ritornello form, and you know how often I speak about sonata form. Well, sonata form is really a product of the classical period, but in the Baroque period, they had ritornello form, which is really a predecessor to sonata form. So you'll hear the theme played initially in the opening, and of course it'll come back at the end, and then you will hear it definitely in the middle section. So it will be very easy to hear and listen to, and it's just the idea of a theme that keeps returning. And I think when you hear the first movement, you will hear the wonderful craftsmanship of this composer, and you will hear the joy, and you will hear this wonderful inner rhythm that Bach's music had. And I love what he wrote in the preface. He dedicated this to the music lover to refresh their spirit. And I think we all need our spirits refreshed these days. So let me play for you the opening movement of the Italian Concerto. Concerto in the Italian style. joy. And of course, I love to add those octaves in those last few measures. And I have to thank Wanda Landowska for that, because she played on this very big harpsichord and she doubled a lot of things. So I think it really adds to the spirit. So forgive me for doing that. I think it works though. And then we come to the beautiful second movement. Now, those people who claim that Bach wasn't a romantic haven't heard this second movement, because it's a very beautiful romantic statement. Actually, I think it's a song from the heart. And what Bach does is the left hand is playing this ostinato accompaniment. So, in other words, the accompaniment keeps going. And in the right hand, there's this beautiful soprano aria taking place, and you will hear this very heartfelt song. So let me show you what I'm talking about. And then Bach launches right into that energetic finale. But isn't that a beautiful romantic statement? I mean, who can say that Bach is just a mechanical composer? No, God, he had a deep soul. That's for sure. You hear it in this movement. And then Bach writes a finale even faster than the first movement. And we realize how virtuosic this music is. In fact, it goes without saying that Bach was a terrific performer. In fact, he was outstanding on the violin as well as being a first-class organist and harpsichordist, of course. So let me play for you the finale. And once again, it's in ritornello form. You will hear that opening statement, and it'll come back at the end, and it'll keep coming back in the middle section. You'll be able to follow this. Bach makes it very easy for you. there you have the concerto in the Italian style. And, Bach was a terrific transcriber, but another one of my old friends was also a terrific transcriber, and he did transcribe some of Bach's music that he wrote for organ. And I am speaking about Franz Liszt. Now, Franz Liszt was also a wonderful organist. And they say that during his tours, when he was touring and giving concerts to thousands of people, he would always manage to stop at a village church somewhere. And remember, he was a devout Catholic, so of course he went there to pray, but he also went there to try the organ. And he would sit down at the organ and start improvising. But what Liszt did do is transcribe 6 of Bach's preludes and fugues that he wrote originally for the organ. And I have to add that Liszt also did transcribe the 9 symphonies of Beethoven for the piano, and he did his share of operatic transcriptions. He would introduce a new opera by an unknown composer to the thousands of people he was playing for. So he had a way of publicizing, their music and spreading the word, and he did a lot of good for a lot of unknown composers. But with Bach's music, I must say, Liszt respected Bach enormously and did not change a note of his music in his transcriptions. But what did change was transferring it from the organ to the piano. Now, what resulted in that transcription was that you had a Baroque composition for the organ, and it became more of a romantic virtuoso transcription in Liszt's hands. And I'll tell you why. For instance, on the organ, when the organist plays with pedals, of course, we couldn't do that, so we have to play in octaves, okay? And that presents that makes the music a little difficult. And then what the organist could easily do with a swell pedal, they can raise the volume. In fact, they can raise the volume so far that you can be thrown out of the room. It's so huge and wonderful. But the pianist can't do that. So what Liszt had to do, of course, was fill in the notes so we could create the increase in sonorities that the organ can do so easily with just moving a pedal. So what happened was that this Baroque composition really morphed into a romantic transcription. And I remember when I was learning this piece that I'm going to play for you as a student, all the organists were saying, "Oh, you're stealing our repertoire." But they also understood that when the pianist plays it, it's a very different piece of music than when the organist performs it. So let me share with you this wonderful transcription of the Prelude and Fugue that Bach originally wrote for organ and Liszt transcribed for the piano. Now, a prelude is really just an introduction. It's an improvisatory piece. I always think of it as a warm-up piece for the performer before he gets to the fugue, the difficult fugue. And what Liszt is doing, you can see he is improvising. Oh, not Liszt, actually what Bach is doing, what Liszt is transposing. So what I do, because I want that there's a low A that sounds through it. Now on the organ it's very easy to maintain. So what I do is I press the A silently down because it becomes the bottom of the first page, the foundation. And I use my middle pedal. Now some of you who have a piano have probably never even used the middle pedal because usually people don't use it that often. People don't know really what it's for. So what this does is it will hold down the A until I release it, and when it plays, all of a sudden it will create the bottom. You'll hear it when I start. So here is the prelude. have the prelude, real warm-up piece, right? And I love the way he ends it in the major mode. That's so Bach, but we don't really expect it. And then what Bach does is he gives us a fugue. This is a contrapuntal composition, actually, and he provides a wonderful dance tune for the subject. And pianists really have to think horizontally, and you have to listen in a way horizontally, because what the composer's doing, he's presenting the subject. You'll hear that, and then he will present it again in a different key level, usually the dominant, instead of the tone. So 5 notes above. That's the second time. Then the third time he'll present it again in the tonic, and then the fourth time again in the dominant. But what happens is the texture keeps increasing. But still you should be able to pick out the fugue, at least in the beginning. You're going to definitely hear those 4 voices as they come in. And in the middle section, what Bach does, and of course he's a master at this, there's his genius, his divine genius. He uses the fugue subject, and of course he gives you bits of it and keeps imitating it from voice to voice, and I think he presents it at least 5 times until the final statement comes, and that's when the pianist presents it in octaves. It would have normally been played by the organist with the feet, but we have to do it in octaves. So you will, and then of course Bach brings it to a final flourish, and it's really a wonderful piece. It's a very joyful piece because the subject is so much fun. So let me give you some idea of this. become a romantic composition. We can't match those organ sounds on the piano, but Liszt has done an incredible job of transcribing. And of course, he hasn't altered Bach's music. You still hear that genius, the joy, that wonderful energy. And I have to say, I have to give Liszt a lot of credit because along with Mendelssohn, Liszt helped with the revival of Bach's music. Can you believe that in the 19th century he was nearly forgotten until Mendelssohn started reviving his choral masterpieces, and of course people rediscovered Bach, thank goodness. And it's so wonderful for us to rediscover Bach. I'm realizing, actually I was thinking about this when I was preparing this program. I was thinking, boy, we need Bach in our life so much. He gives an order. He brings us into harmony with ourselves. I mean, there's no chaos in his music. Everything seems like it's just where it should be. It's inevitably in place. And that is his divine gift. I really think that Bach was blessed from the gods above with this extraordinary genius. And of course, he was serving the church, and his music was made to glorify God. And he brings us a lot of stability, I think. I mean, at least for me. And I think we need to listen to more of Bach's music, especially in the times we're living in right now. And we need his harmony and his sense of right and what's right and just. So it's been a pleasure being with you, and I hope to visit with you again soon. I hope you've enjoyed this. I've had a lot of fun with this music, bringing it out and rediscovering it. Even the piece I hadn't played for a long time that I first learned in high school. So it's been a joy to share, and hopefully we'll visit again soon, and I can introduce you to another one of my wonderful composer friends and take you behind the notes. So, thank you.